Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at business strategy, and we're focusing on today of the allocation of resources. So one of the learning outcomes is to analyze and estimate resource requirements for implementing a new strategy for a given organization, because we looked at the importance of communication for implementation, and we've looked at Bellbine's team roles in terms of teams of people working together to achieve your specific organizational objectives. But we also need to make sure that when we're you know implementing the strategy, that we have the correct resources to implement the strategy. So we need to think about various things in terms of the work breakdown structure, breaking down a project into its component parts, and to determine what needs to be done, to determine what resources you have, and to coordinate how to do it. And this can be done also by using Gantt charts and times and delays and activities, and how long you will take to achieve different activities within the activities of the task that you need to do. Preparation and planning, development and testing, and implementation, for example. In terms of even trying to determine the resource requirements for implementing a new strategy for your organization. Very, very important. Determining and trying to outline the human, technical and financial resources required for your business. What budgets, equipment, what types of people, with what knowledge, and how much money will you put in. If you did a resource audit, it will help. How much money will you need from the business angels, and what share of the business will you offer for this? So again, how much money do you need, how much money do you want to invest, and what percentage of business do you want to give? So these are some of the things for using an investment angel you would need to review in terms of trying to achieve your overall strategy. Question based on prior learning. Again, things to think about. Define the term gap analysis. What do we mean by gap analysis? What does the CBA stand for? What is the formula for working out the cost benefit ratio? And list physical risks that affect the strategy implementation. And what do we mean by the term rule of thumb? So gap analysis is a tool used to find out the difference between what exists and what is needed by the organization. The cost benefit ratio, CBR, which is you divide the total benefit of the total assets incurred in producing the product, and the cost benefit ratio, so as something to one. Okay. Again, earthquakes, floods, fires, droughts, climate, etc. And the rule of thumb basically means a range of values from worst to best results, with the best possible result between the two. Allocating resources, these can be allocated according to bargaining, according to a formula provided due to competition, or even imposed. So what is resource planning? The definition of resource planning, the determining of what resources in terms of people, equipment, and materials are needed in what quantities to perform project activities. And resource planning really includes different stages and different steps, including the resource identification, fit with existing resources, and the fit between required resources. What are some of the critical success factors? So let's look at the definition. What does critical success factors mean? CSF. So the critical success factors, CSF, refers to specific activities, procedures, or areas that a business or organization depends on for its combined survival. Critical success factors are unique to each organization and will reflect the current business and future goals. An organization's critical success factors can be identified by applying business analytics. So critical success factors examples. So turns strategic objectives into performance targets and tactical plans, as we can see here. So if we look at the sphere of activity in terms of marketing, production and logistics, the critical success factors for marketing is sales volume and market share. For production, it's capacity utilization, and for logistics, it's capacity utilization. And again, we're looking in terms of marketing, the gross margins, production in terms of quality standards, and logistics regarding the level of service. So some criteria used in choosing, between alternative plans for specific aspects of marketing. Again, if we look at new product development, this could be trial rate, repurchase rate, sales programs, which could be the contribution by region, salesperson, controllable margin as a percentage of sales, number of accounts, travel costs, advertising programs in terms of awareness levels, attribute ratings and cost levels, pricing programs and their critical success factors like price relative to industry average and price elasticity of demand, and distribution programs regarding the number of distributors carrying out the product. And again, outsourcing. Sometimes in outsourcing as a strategy that could be used to outsource various production and operations of the business. So to allow people with the resources and time and equipment to carry out that resource function. And this outsourcing refers to when you subcontract work out to external suppliers. The advantages of outsourcing, in-house resources can be used for more profitable purposes. Contract compliance, contracts must be drawn up. Check quality assurance, important as the work for outsourcing reflects the organization. Can check standards using, ISO 9000 series. And we're going to go and look at some additional information in terms of ISO 9000. Disadvantages of outsourcing, there tends to be supplier commitment. If all the output cannot be done in-house, then the organization needs to get external contractors for suppliers. It can be difficult to control the product quality and reliability of delivery via outsourcing. It can be hard to check quality assurance of external suppliers. However, an organization can check to see if they have ISO 9000 and have alternative supply available should the supplier become unreliable or too expensive. So you need to have a wide range of other suppliers available just in case you need to switch. And some other disadvantages, can make the organization vulnerable if the outsourcing arrangement doesn't work out. And contract compliance, if negotiations in a contract are tedious, and it can be expensive as well. So the definition of ISO 9000. ISO 9000 is an international standard for the development of quality management systems that can potentially be adopted by any business. Its purpose to enable companies to demonstrate that they are in a position to provide products or services that meet the customer's expectations and are focused on the total customer satisfaction. I mean, when I first started working for my first company, Metro Products, 3 years into the business, or was it 2 years into the business, the UK government brought out BS 5750, the quality standards. And it basically meant that all the manufacturers manufacturing in the UK and supplying to the retailers in the UK had to meet BS 5750 quality standards in order to meet the products and services expectations of the end consumer. And so in order to do this, every single department had to adhere to these quality procedures and processes and put them into practice. And it was very long-winded, time-consuming, and but it was still good because it meant that if someone left a building and left a job, then you've got all the procedures and practices in place and the processes so that you know exactly what to do and how a particular task or job should be conducted. This then moved on to ISO 9000, which then moved on to ISO 9001 and then back to ISO 9000. So this started in the early 1990s, and it was a quality standard set in the UK originally by the UK government. So ISO 9000 explained further, ISO 9000 refers to standards in delivering the same level of service continually. The standard can be applied to any public or private organization, regardless of their size or what business area they're in. Okay. So what do you think are the advantages of ISO 9000? Advantages of ISO 9000: increased customer satisfaction, looks to improve the quality of your products, improved supplier relationships, check that suppliers have the means to get the work done and check references on previous work that has been done. ISO 9000 can be used as a marketing tool for an organization. Provides that your business is committed to quality. It is a globally recognized standard. Disadvantages of ISO 9000: cost, high quality products and or services are required, and there will be additional staff training costs as well. Time consuming, definitely. Getting ISO 9000 accreditation is a lengthy process and involves a lot of form filling, also changes to organizational policies and procedures, and it involves getting everyone together, everyone in different departments getting together to putting in this documentation into process, training the staff, and then doing the necessary checks to make sure that everyone is doing everything in the right way. Okay, so it's an individual task here. Why might Kellogg's decide to follow ISO 9000 series? How do you think it would be a benefit to the organization? You also need to think about budgets in terms of resources and allocating resources. And budgets are essential. Should be applied to a strategic plan. There are several different types of budgets, and these include capital budgets. Shows the cash flow for different projects, capital rationing decisions, and funding methods. Working capital and departmental budgets show the stocks, debtor, and creditor levels. And consolidated budgets helps with the planning of resources within the organization as a whole. So and note that budgets are normally typically set for one period of a year, 1 year within the financial year. Factors that influence budgets: strategic plans include short to long-term plans. Thus, the planning period is more than 1 year. This differs to the length of time a budget is set for. So again, more time needs to be taken into consideration, and strategic plans need to be thought through in terms of allocation of resources and budgets, because as we just previously stated, budgets are usually done on a financial year. A distinction needs to be made as if the resources are fixed or variable. In the long term, all resources are variable. In the short term, some resources are fixed, others are variable. So there will be error, as you have to base some of the information on the budget on your forecasting. Problems with budgets: departmental budgets are then prepared based on the last year's costs and year-to-date actual, plus or minus a bit, according to business strategy, the BPP book 2010. Most budgets are set over a 1 year period so that management can satisfy the objectives of their shareholders and that the organization is achieving good results. But there are contingency plans, and these are plans that are put into place for uncontrolled events. So thank you today for Mr. Tan, and we briefly touched upon the allocation of resources needed.